Hello everyone, I finally did it. I pushed the trigger and made a YouTube channel. If you don't already know who I am, my name is Paulina. I'm an astrologer, entrepreneur, and a multifaceted, multidimensional being. Here on this channel, we're gonna talk about a little bit of everything. I like to keep it real with y'all. I call myself the tough love bestie. And I really figured I'd start this channel off with a bang and tell you guys about my experience getting a DUI. Yes, me getting a DUI. I know. So where to begin? For one, I really think this is important to help people get through these types of situations, because if you've never been in trouble with the law like myself, outside of maybe getting a speeding ticket, getting arrested for driving under the influence is not fun. Don't recommend it. Don't do it. Not something I advise. But at the same time, it's also something that a lot of people, you'd be surprised how many people have had or have DUIs and have had to go through this experience. So for starters, I do not condone drinking and driving. I am not someone who really ever did it. And of course, one of the very few times that I did, I got in trouble. Long story short, it was in the middle of COVID. We're talking about at the end of August 2020. I was dating someone long distance. They happened to fly into California, Los Angeles. There was nowhere to go together outside of to the beach. And we were drinking at the beach. It had been some hours since I last drank. I mean, I don't know how many of you are familiar with LA, but we were close to like the marina. I dropped him off, literally like made it all the way to Slauson and La Brea, dropped him off over there, and was already on La Cienega and 18th Street. That's where I had gotten pulled over by CHP. This was at about 3 in the morning. It had already been a couple hours since I had my last drink. But if you know anything about alcohol, it actually, the more time that goes by, the higher your BAC goes up. And so I had gotten pulled over for swerving lanes on camera. I wasn't bobbing and weaving out the lanes, but I definitely was not in one straight lane. You know, I could tell that one of these officers was more or less in training and the other one was kind of directing her. It was a man and a woman. Long story short, they pulled me out. They had me do the test, the sobriety test, which according to the police report, I failed. To be quite honest with you, I would talk to a lawyer. We'll get to that momentarily, but a lot of those times, those tests that they have you do, walking, talking, whatever it is, even a sober person can't really pass them, to be quite honest with you. But moving forward from that, I refused to blow on site, so they had to take me to the station. In the middle of all that, what I really want to stress to you is I really kept my cool, in the sense of like, I was not belligerently drunk. I was very aware of everything that was going on. I'm not one of those people who looks for trouble. Just like, my main concern honestly was my family and my parents. I was living with my parents at the time. You know, I know that they were expecting me to be home, and they turn off your phone when you get arrested. So my phone is off. We're waiting for my car to get towed. This officer sees a yoga mat in the back of my car. He's like, oh, do your calm breath. Bruh, now you want to be nice? I'm back here with cuffs. This hurts, to be quite honest with you, but let's see how this plays out. It's a Saturday night, mind you, Sunday morning. So they take me to the station to blow. I definitely blew over what I was supposed to. Lucky me, they actually drove me home that night. They did not put me in a cell. Anybody already knows as well, they take away your license. You're on basically a temporary license. And if you're in California, I don't know how it goes in other states, but at this point, you are now dealing with both the DMV and the court of law. They are two separate entities you will have to deal with. They drop me off at home. Beforehand, they call my parents, let them know what's going on. I'm very grateful to have very understanding parents who did not give me any grief, didn't give me any problems. They were really very supportive. You know, my dad helped me pick up my car from the tow the next morning and let me cry in his arms when I got home, because I really did not know what I was getting myself into at this point. The next day I woke up still in shambles, figuring out how am I gonna deal with this. And I'm the type of person where I'm just researching everything. You know, I'm trying to figure out how I can do this myself. And after a while, I realized that if I put this upon myself, it will quite literally be all that I'm thinking about until this case is over. So I went ahead and found myself a lawyer. It definitely cost me a pretty penny, but in the long run was actually a blessing in disguise. So, once I put everything in the lawyer's hands, and because COVID was happening, everything was very delayed, which again was a blessing in my favor. And as I was getting the police reports, not that this mattered in the court of law, but let me tell y'all, they messed up on so much stuff. Like, they messed up on the date that they arrested me. Like, they were just all over the place. I'm like, who filed this report? Because it seems like maybe you were actually under the influence. I got arrested August 30th, 2020, and thanks to my lawyer, I didn't have to deal with the DMV until about April of 2021, and I didn't go to court until about the same time as well. Now, as I was saying, you're dealing with two separate entities. So, in the meantime, my main concern was really making sure that in the court of law, I am not going to be charged with the DUI. The DMV is a very different situation. You're literally dealing with someone who thinks that they're playing a judge. God bless the people who take those jobs, because there's a special place. There's a special place for y'all. So I lost the case with the DMV. They did suspend my license for 3 months. It was only a 3-month suspension, but in those terms of suspension, I also have to get an SR22. I wanted to drive during those few months. I had to put a breathalyzer in my car. I honestly sold my car because the area that I live in now doesn't require a car, so I just took the loss and honestly came up on some money anyway, which ended up paying for majority, if not all, of my legal fees and court fees. I got really lucky in court. I hired a great lawyer, and why I got lucky in court was for a few reasons. For one, I actually moved states, so I did not have to show up in court once. Me moving states was not in the plan when I originally was pulled over and arrested, but it just so happened that I decided to get the heck out of California, and so I didn't have to show up for court. My lawyer got to do everything for me. If you do end up hiring a lawyer, make sure they are connected, well connected. It's really not what you know, it's who you know, especially in these types of situations. And make sure your lawyer is really familiar with the courthouse that you have your case at and knows the DAs there. And in addition to that, just don't fuck around. While you have a case, do not go doing anything stupid. Like, stay safe, stay low key, first and foremost. There's no reason to add anything else to your against you, essentially. My lawyer was able to get my DUI reduced to a wet reckless. With that being said, I also had to it came out to about like 5 months of the classes, which I also lucked out with because I got to do them online. And those were really just like about an hour to an hour and a half of sitting with a group on Zoom and hearing somebody tell you everything you already know, but everything you need to you need to hear, right? Because otherwise you wouldn't have ended up there. And I also had to do some AA groups, which again, I was able to do through Zoom, which were actually really not that bad. And I also had to do some community service, pay a small fine, which I was able to also get converted to community service hours. So I really, really lucked out, y'all. But I do firmly believe a lot of this was just because of the duration of this case, and that it really took almost in entirety, it really didn't finish until about a few months ago. So it took almost 2 years for it to be completely done. What I really want to stress, though, about this DUI in general is, for one, I know that feeling like when you're like, oh my God, I'm a screw up. This is it. Life is over for me. No one's ever going to hire me. This, that, and the third. A lot of people have DUIs, you guys. And I'm not saying this to excuse it. I'm saying this to be like, to really just tell you, like, don't be super hard on yourself and don't self-shame yourself. Like, it's never okay to drink and drive. I have not done it since, and nor will I ever. To be honest with you, I'm on a journey of sobriety at the moment, but the harder you are on yourself, the easier it is to just go into this downward spiral. So just remind yourself of that. The second part I realized in getting a DUI is how if you don't have a financial backing, it can really ruin your life. And I was lucky enough to be able to have the money set aside, which essentially just ended up costing me, with the lawyer, with the fees, with me getting my car out of the tow, it was over $5,000, almost $6,000 for sure. And so I can really see how this can ruin somebody's life if they don't have the financial means to afford it. I also know some people who did it without a lawyer, but with moving states, I really needed the lawyer. It was definitely something that came in handy. People think that they're not alcoholics just because they're able to get through the day, they're not drinking every day, they're functional essentially. But someone who binge drinks and gets to the point where, they are driving drunk, that is definitely something you need to look at deeper within yourself. When I had to do these group sessions on Zoom, you see a lot of different people from different backgrounds, and you see some people who are in there for like their third or fourth DUI. And that's the crazy thing, right? As I told you at the beginning of this, it will never be me again in there. But that's what we tell ourselves. This could never be me again. How could I ever do this for a second or third or fourth time? And that's what I really want to stress to you is like, that is not something to play with. It's just not worth it. Alcohol, there's really nothing beneficial about it for anybody. It's not in any way healthy for you. It doesn't offer you any benefits whatsoever. And if it's something that makes you more comfortable or loose or have a better time, I really think if anything, because this is something I'm dealing with right now, that's actually an invitation to look deeper within yourself as to why you need something like alcohol to make yourself feel more comfortable, to make yourself have a good time. Because if you were really connected to yourself and you really, sorry to say this, loved yourself, you would not need these downers, right? I mean, alcohol is essentially a downer to bring you to the point of fun or enjoying yourself. So that's my story of my first DUI, my first and last and final and never again DUI. And for the sake of keeping it short and sweet, am omitting lots of details. Trust me, it was a lot more of a roller coaster than this, but I just wanted to give you the gist of it. This was not a fun experience. It taught me a lot. It's still something that I have to deal with in the terms of I haven't had a car in over a year. I haven't had my license in over a year. That's already my own choices, but that's also just because I've been so held back by this situation. But at the same time, it taught me a lot about myself. It taught me a lot about the person that I was dating at the time. And it taught me a lot about people and the stigma around getting a DUI, because majority of these people are very regular people like you and I who have quite literally never done anything wrong in their lives and made a mistake. So if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, comment, share, like, whatever y'all do on here. Again, thank you so much for watching this, and I will be back very soon.